Welcome back to Originality Check, where we take a look at a park's coaster lineup, past and present, and judge it based upon originality. If you're new to this series, each coaster can earn up to 3 points each for originality. Here are the points for each coaster to earn. One being that the coaster originally opened at the park and was not relocated from another park. The second being that it is not a cloned model. If it was the first of its cloned type, I'll give it half a point. And the third being that it has an original name. Same deal for this one, half a point if it was the first with that name. At the end of the video, we will add up all the points scored and determine the overall originality for the park's coasters. Today, we are going to visit one of my all-time favorite parks, Kings Island. Kings Island has had 23 coasters in its history, 24 if you're counting each side of Racer. In this case, we will. This means Kings Island can earn up to 72 points for originality. Now, before we get kingly and discover what's in the shed of onions, make sure you subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Drop a like on the video while you're at it too. It really helps me out against the annoying YouTube algorithm. Well, I guess it is about that time. Dude, why do you have Bulby? Put him down.
If your viewers don't like and subscribe, the skink gets it.
I'm not so sure about that, buddy.
What the?
Oh, now you've done it.
Oh, crap.
This is why you don't mess with reptiles. Now that Bulby is taking care of the YouTube algorithm, on to the judging. As always, we will go in order from the first coaster to open to the latest. Racer. This opened with the park in 1972. This is a dueling out and back wooden coaster. Since there are 2 tracks for this coaster, each side can earn up to 3 points each. Kings Island has taken great care of this coaster over the years, unlike its sister park with their version of this. This did originally open at the park. While they are mirrored copies of each other, I'll let that slide. Not a clone. But the name has been used many times before this came around. 2 points for each side, giving 4 points total for Racer. Woodstock Express. This junior PTC wooden coaster also opened with the park in 1972. It's had a handful of different names over the years. I'm not going to waste any time explaining every name of this coaster. Here they are. This did originally open at the park. As for the name, even though this has had multiple names over the years, in this series I only judged the current name of the coaster. While this is a cloned coaster, same as the Woodstock Express at King's Dominion and Carowinds, this one came first, so half a point. While this was the first of the Cedar Fair Junior wooden coasters to be renamed to Woodstock Express, there were already other Woodstock Expresses out there before this was renamed to Woodstock Express, so no point there. 1.5 points for Woodstock Express. Bavarian Beetle. This is the last of our opening day attractions for Kings Island. This was an SDC Zyklon Galaxy and operated at the park until 1978. This did originally open at Coney Island in Cincinnati, so no point there. This was a cloned model, but no other coasters used this name. 1 point for Bavarian Beetle. Demon, an Aero Shuttle Loop coaster that operated at the park from 1977 to 1987. This would later move on to Camden Park in West Virginia and would operate there from 1988 to 1999. This did originally open at Kings Island. While this was not the first Aero Shuttle Loop to be built, this was the first to open to the public. Kinda gray area here, but I'm feeling nice today. I'll give it half a point here. But the name will not give it another point. 1.5 points for Demon. Beast. This in-house designed and built coaster opened in 1979 as the world's longest wooden coaster and still holds that title to this day. This coaster seems to be a little bit polarized among coaster enthusiasts. Some enthusiasts say that it's a fantastic ride, while others say that it's just flat up boring. I can see both sides of the argument, but I will say, ever since Gravity Group did their retracking on this ride and reprofiled the first drop, it's a lot more fun. Sure, by today's standards, it may not be the greatest coaster, but for what it is, it's a lot of fun. And this will give us our first home run of points for the video. 3 points for Beast. Bat. This prototype aero suspended coaster operated on and off from 1981 to 1983. While this coaster was a failure, it did lead to many more successful models of this coaster to open in the future. This did open at the park. There aren't any clones. While this isn't the only Bat to have existed, this was the first, so half a point there. 2.5 points for Bat. King Cobra. This Togo standing coaster operated from 1984 to 2001. These definitely looked like quite an experience. Don't think too many people are sad that this is gone. I rode the version of this at King's Dominion a long time ago. I don't have much memory of it, and I'm kinda thankful for it. This did open at the park. This was a cloned model, but this was the first of its kind to open, so half a point. And surprisingly, the name has not been used for any other coasters. 2.5 points for King Cobra. Vortex. This Aero custom looper operated at the park from 1987 to 2019. This was located where the original Bat once stood. Vortex was the first coaster in the world to offer 6 inversions. While this ride was notorious for being rough, I know I would have loved it. No Aero is too rough to not love, in my opinion. This did originally originally opened at the park, no clones of it exist, but there was one Vortex to open before this one, so no point there. 2 points for Vortex. Adventure Express. This era mine train opened in 1991 and still gives a disappointing ending to the ride to this day. However, the rest of the ride is honestly really good. This is one of my favorite era mine trains out there, and the theming along the ride is a nice touch too. This will give us another home run for points. 3 points for Adventure Express. Great Pumpkin Coaster. This E&F Mallard Kitty coaster opened in 1992. This also had multiple names, but again, I'm not going to waste any time going over them. Here they are. This did originally open at the park, it is a cloned model, and this was the first coaster to use that name. Half point. 1.5 points for Great Pumpkin Coaster. Bat returns from the dead, but in a much better designed form. This bat opened in 1993 and is still going strong today, and hopefully for many more years to come. I have a bad feeling that Richard Zimmerman has his eyes on this coaster. Hey, I see you, Richard. Back off. Yeah, that's what I thought. Go think about what you've done. Nobody likes you. This did originally open at the park. However, this is a clone of Vortex of Canada's Wonderland, and that came first, so no point. And the name Bat has been used before this came around. 1 point for Bat. Flight of Fear. This indoor Premier Rides launch coaster was the first to feature an LIM launch, or linear induction motor, along with the Flight of Fear at King's Dominion. While this did originally open at the park, that's the only point that it's going to get. Some could debate about it being a clone, since the only true clone of this one is at King's Dominion. The rest of the Spaghetti Bowl coasters don't have 2 separate stations, and they also don't have a mid-course brake run in the middle of the ride. But since this coaster opened on the exact same day as the one at King's Dominion, and it is an identical clone, I can't justify 1 point here. And obviously the same goes for the name. 1 point for Flight of Fear. Scooby's Ghoster Coaster. This was a bat flyer coaster that operated from 1998 to 2005. Not too many of these were made. These looked like a rather interesting model. This did originally open at the park. Comparing this to the other versions that were made, it seems like each one had their own layout to fit the area that they were in. So I won't call this one a clone. If I'm wrong on that, please let me know in the comments, but for now, I'll give it a point. And the name is original too. 3 points for Scooby's Ghoster Coaster. Invertigo. This Vekoma inverted boomerang opened in 1999 and is still going strong today, being the last of its kind in the country. I've had good rides on this and I've had bad rides on this. I guess it just depends on the day. This is another coaster that I feel may be on the chopping block soon. While it would be sad to see this go, I think whatever replaces it would be a much better attraction. So Zimmerman, if you're going to axe a coaster, go for this one please. Redo the entrance while you're at it. Seriously, this needs some help. While this coaster did originally open at the park, that's the only point that it's getting. 1 point for Invertigo. Son of Beast. I don't think this coaster needs much of an introduction. We all know what this coaster was, and it was original all around. 3 points for Son of Beast. Woodstock's Air Rail. This Vekoma Hang and Bang opened in 2001 and is still bashing heads to this day. At least it looks cool now. This did open at the park, it is a cloned model, and the current name is original. 2 points for Woodstock's Air Rail. Backlot Stunt Coaster. This Premier Rides family launch coaster opened in 2005. There are 2 identical clones of this, one at King's Dominion and one at Canada's Wonderland. I'm not sure how many of the effects work at the one in Canada's Wonderland, but I know the one at King's Island has always had its effects working. King's Dominion, not so much. This did originally open at the park, but that's all that it has going for it for originality. 1 point for Backlot Stunt Coaster. Firehawk. This Vekoma Flying Dutchman operated from 2007 to 2018. This was located where Orion is today. This was relocated from Yaga Lake. This was a clone of Batwing at Six Flags America, but the name will give it 1 point. 1 point for Firehawk. Diamondback. This B&M Hyper opened in 2009 and still soaks riders in the back row to this day. This ride had to grow on me. For a while, I just didn't understand the hyper behind it. I'm not sorry. But I've come to learn that it is much better in the front, in my opinion. Which is weird for a B&M Hyper. Maybe it's just personal preference? Because I know many people say that this is definitely a back row coaster. To each their own. You all can have the back, I'll take the front row. Have a nice day. This did originally open at the park, there are no clones of it, but the name has been used before. Thanks Frontier City. 2 points for Diamondback. Banshee. This B&M invert opened in 2014. This stands on a small portion of land where Son of Beast once stood, making some mentions of it too. This is another coaster where I wasn't really a big fan of it for a while, but in recent years I've grown to love it more and more. I guess this coaster is just temperamental, because sometimes it runs great, sometimes it runs not so much. I'm not going to call it mid, because I think that word is stupid, but I'll say it's in the lower upper tier of B&M inverts. This will give us another home run for originality. 3 points for Banshee. Mystic Timbers. Okay, let's talk. I'm sorry, I just don't get it. So many enthusiasts praise Mystic Timbers as the best GCI out there. It's a middle tier at best for me. The layout just doesn't do it for me. It's just not what I want in a wooden coaster. Sure, the airtime is kind of there, but only in short bursts. I prefer longer, more sustained moments of airtime. In order for me to get any airtime on this ride, I feel like I need to intentionally try to stand up to feel any of the airtime. If If I just sit there and let the ride do its thing, I hardly leave my seat. In my opinion, if I need to physically do a specific thing to make a ride good, then the ride isn't that good to me. I prefer the twister layouts from DCI. Thunderhead at Dollywood being my current favorite from DCI. To each their own. If you love Mystic Timbers, then vibe away. But I can at least give Mystic Timbers a home run for originality, so all is well. 3 points for Mystic Timbers. Orion. This B&M Giga, yes, it's a Giga. Cry me a river, build a bridge, and get over it. If you don't think this is a Giga, you're wrong. This opened in 2020, and I'd safely say that this is my favorite ride at the park. This ride seems to be somewhat polarized among coaster enthusiasts. Is it another Fury 325? By no means, but it's not meant to be. If Orion opened before Fury 325, I'm certain that not as many people would be so critical of this ride. Just appreciate the ride for what it is. Sure, the layout is a little bit short and a little bit drawn out, but I still have a blast in this coaster. Don't look at the specs, don't look at the numbers, just have fun. Orion will give us another home run for points. 3 points for Orion. And last, we have Snoopy's Soapbox Racers. This Vekoma family boomerang opened in 2024. This model seems to be gaining popularity in the United States. Can't say I'm mad about that. It's a cute ride and offers something different in the family coaster market. It certainly fits well at Kings Island as well. This did originally open at the park, but there are clones of it. But the name will give Kings Island its final point for originality. 2 points for Snoopy's Soapbox Racers. And that's all the past and present coasters of Kings Island. There were 72 points that Kings Island could have possibly scored, and Kings Island scored 48.5 points, giving the coasters of Kings Island 67% originality. This is about where I expected Kings Island to score, knowing that the Paramount days did bring some clones to the park. But the more recent coasters definitely seem to be trending on the more original side. As I said earlier in the video, this is one of my all-time favorite parks. One thing that has always stood out to me about this park is the amazing ride operations throughout the entire park. It seems all the rides prioritize capacity and efficient operations, and the morale among the staff has always been amazing here. I would love to see that at more parks. Hershey Park, I'm looking at you. And that will do it for this episode of Originality Check. What parks do you guys want to see in this series next? Are there any smaller parks that you would like me to cover? Any larger parks that you would like me to cover? Just let me know in the comments. Alright guys, I've wrapped the video up here. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you in the next loop.